Hey people, welcome back. Indie Pride here, and some juicy Total War Warhammer news and speculation is on the way. So Creative Assembly has announced that a new DLC pack is coming out soon. We don't have a release date yet, but it will probably be around the end of August. But what will it include? We don't know all the specifics yet, of course, but what is confirmed is that 2 new Legendary Lords will be added to the game, along with the first set of Units of Renown. I'll talk about the Units of Renown in a little bit, but first off, CA, even though they haven't actually told us specifically who the Lord characters will be, left a huge hint in their DLC blog saying the pack would be quote-unquote somewhat grim, with grim being capitalized. This confirms what some of us have suspected since before Total War Warhammer's release, that the Grand Theogonist of the Cult of Sigmar, the spiritual and religious leader of the Empire, will be the 3rd Legendary Lord for the Empire of Man. That man, of course, is Volkmar the Grim. Volkmar is a powerful and pious man utterly dedicated to his faith and the destruction of chaos in all of its forms. I think he's a great choice for an Empire Legendary Lord. For one, his introduction should be complemented by the War Altar of Sigmar, a mount that can radiate huge bonuses to morale and combat prowess in an area of effect, kind of like a Kurokio stand from Medieval 2 but on steroids. And they should also be accompanied by flagellants, those insane men of the Empire who throw themselves into battle with reckless abandon and little to no armor. Think of them as shock troop peasants with unbreakable morale and frenzy, so they could end up being a very useful unit. They'll dish out a ton of damage, but with next to no armor or defense, they'll melt away quickly once combat is joined, or if they get charged in the face by shock troops like trolls or heavy cavalry. Now Volkmar also has 2 magic items that will form his quest battles. The Jade Griffin, a talisman card from Enchanted Jade, said to have been blessed by Magnus the Pious himself. It hangs upon the Grand Theogonist's chest, glowing with a green inner light that suffuses Volkmar with regenerative powers. And the Staff of Commands, the Grand Theogonist's badge of office. It draws power from the War Altar of Sigmar and channels it into the Grand Theogonist's aging limbs, suffusing him with great strength and vigor. So again, none of that is actually confirmed, but it is, I'd say with like 95% certainty, that Volkmar the Grim will be the first Legendary Lord they're talking about, and that his items in the game will be gained through those quests. So that's Volkmar, but there is more to this DLC pack. There will be another Legendary Lord for another race, and we don't know who it is yet, but considering that the Greenskins have already confirmed to be getting Wurrzag the Great Green Prophet as free LC at some point relatively soon, and the Vampire Counts are next on the free LC schedule with a Legendary Lord, my money is on the Dwarfs. What are the Dwarfs missing currently? A Rune Lord. And as it so happens, there is a Rune Lord, the oldest and greatest of their order, named Krell the Grim. His knowledge of ancient runesmithing and crafting techniques is unsurpassed, and he has witnessed the wonders of the Kara's Angkor at the height of its power before the inexorable decline of their once mighty civilization. Rune Lords would of course focus on buffing dwarf units much like a runesmith, ideally with an Anvil of Doom, but my feeling is that even if Krell the Grim is the next dwarf legendary lord, the Anvil of Doom still won't be added yet. It's a weird pick, honestly. He's not an 8th edition tabletop character, and I think many would argue that Thorak Ironbrow is a more famous or iconic Rune Lord, even if Krell is considered the best. But it does fit with the Grim theme, and the Dwarfs do need a 3rd Legendary Lord, so I think my speculation here is very possible. But we're also at a crossroads for Total War Warhammer content, because in terms of the base game and DLC so far, Creative Assembly has not strayed away from 8th edition Warhammer Fantasy at all, whatsoever. Every single Legendary Lord and unit in the game currently is from 8th edition army books. But with the 3rd Vampire Counts Legendary Lord free LC coming out soon, there's a very decent chance CA will be moving out of the realm of 8th edition, which suddenly opens up the entire Warhammer Fantasy universe to us, and would confirm that their contract with Games Workshop allows some more freedom and leeway than some of us had previously thought. That they don't actually have to follow the army books to the exact letter. The reason I say that is the Vampire Counts only have 3 named Lord characters in 8th edition. Manfred von Karstein, Heinrich Kemmler, and Vlad von Karstein. And while I expect Vlad to be added at some point, especially if an End Times expansion comes out for the 3rd game, I really have a hard time imagining he will come next. He would play exactly like Manfred, a strong melee character and presumably also a dual caster of the Lore of Death and Lore of Vampires. I just don't see him being the 3rd Legendary Lord added yet, which means CA will have to go outside the box, or rather go outside 8th edition. Just for the sake of variety, I think the next Vampire Council Lord will be a melee-focused Lord. Krell isn't a Lord character in 8th edition, but he's very popular. There are Kemmler quotes in the game hinting at him, and honestly, I think he has a very decent shot at being the 3rd Vampire Council Legendary Lord. If not Krell, probably a Blood Knight Lord. So the Red Duke, hopefully with a unique start position in Mousillon, or Wallach Harkin, Grandmaster of the Blood Dragon Knights at Blood Keep. Now, Blood Keep isn't currently in the game, I don't believe, so I'm not really expecting to see Wallach. I think the Red Duke would honestly be a more likely choice, because giving him a start position in Mousillon would be very attractive for players. I just don't see Vlad being added yet because of his similarities to Manfred, and I do think that CA has to go outside the box on this one. They could also go for Neferata, who's a hero character for the Vampire Counts. There are a couple others that could get thrown in the mix as well, but I think Krell is a very likely possibility, even though he's not technically a Lord character. He is an 8th edition tabletop character. So, finally, the last part of this DLC news are the Units of Renown. They're the last part of this pack. These are elite mercenary variants of existing units, reverently named squads, batteries, and other troops who have distinguished themselves in past conflicts. The first Lord's Pack will ship with 18 of them, 9 of them for the core, one of the core races, and 9 for another. In the Grand Campaign, these grizzled vets are recruited instantly into an army, rather like mercenaries in previous Total War games, from the new Regiments of Renown recruitment menu. That said, they won't hire out to inexperienced commanders. The recruiting lords need to achieve a certain rank before regiments become available for hire, which is, by the way, exactly how I think many of us expected the Dogs of War to be implemented when they come to the game eventually. Elite special units that can be recruited in certain areas of the world for a high price. Right out of the box, they're considerably better at what they do than regulars, boasting enhanced combat stats and an increased initial experience level for the unit they're based on. They'll be available in custom and multiplayer battles too, at an appropriate price hike over their standard unit roster counterparts, of course. 2 of them have already been announced. The Royal Altdorf Griffites are the finest of the Knightly Order's inner circle of cavalrymen, and may be familiar to those of you who've read the Black Library novel or played tabletop campaigns based on Sigmar's Blood. Elite demigriff units, they cause terror and therefore fear as well, and are distinguishable on the battlefield by their snow leopard coloring and blue-tinged armor. Also from Sigmar's Blood, the Hammer of the Witches is an elite artillery regiment employing the last surviving great cannon from Fort Oberstyre before it succumbed to those Sylvanian Rotters. The regiment got its name in the defense of the town of Gortonsford, where it blew the Grey Hag to smithereens after being hastily stuffed with a muzzle load of horseshoes. The unit is distinguished by its resplendent golden barrels, plus its enhanced physical resistance, and the fact that its shells cause magical damage, alongside the normal armor-piercing damage. It doesn't fire horseshoes, though. Sorry. Okay. So, we know that the Empire will be getting 9 Regiments of Renown. Seems like 2 of them have already been announced, so there will be 7 more of those. And the faction of the other DLC Legendary Lord will be getting the other 9. So more than likely that will be the Dwarfs. That is not confirmed. That is my speculation. I think my reasoning is sound, but we'll see very soon. For the Empire, we could definitely see units like the Altdorf Company of Honor, or the Death's Heads, or Karaborg Greatswords. Those kind of units aren't a lock, but they seem quite likely. That's exactly what we were all picturing before the game came out when we were thinking about what possible units of renown could be. I think Karaborg Greatswords is a very iconic one that a lot of people know very well. For the Dwarfs, Bugman's Rangers, Longdrang Slayer Pirates, or Prince Ulther's Dragon Company. all of those, which you will recognize if you played Call of Warhammer, could definitely be units we see in this pack. I'm not going to bother going on a tear of listing 15 units that may or may not be added. Some of them are going to be made up, I think. Like, there will be like a line in an army book or something, but there's not going to be a lot of lore for them. So I think some of those will be kind of obscure, just like I think the Hammer of the Witches is a very obscure Regiment of Renown. That's an artillery piece. It's probably not even going to be very good. We'll see. But that's what I'm thinking. I think that those units make a lot of sense. I think that the Empire and the Dwarfs will be the two we see in this first Lord pack, because the free LC factions, the Vampire counts, are getting a free LC Lord, and we already know it's confirmed that the Greenskins will be getting Wurrzag as free LC also. So just to keep every faction at 3 seems very logical. The Dwarfs would be the other. Krell the Grim makes a lot of sense. So no idea on the pricing of it yet. Hopefully it's priced reasonably. For this particular pack, it's logical to have Volkmar start in Altdorf and Krell the Grim start in Karazakarak. But I'm hoping as we move forward, CA allows, or follows rather, the Beastmen trend of giving new lords different start positions. So we saw that with Malagor the Dark Omen and with Khazrak the One-Eye for the Beastmen. I think that adds a lot of replayability to a faction if you decide to go back and pick a different starting lord with the same faction. I think different starting positions are really the way to go and add a lot of replayability to campaigns. So let me know what you guys think. Let me know what you think of the speculation. Do you guys have different ideas on who could be the free LC lords for Vampire counts, or the DLC lords for the Empire or for the Dwarfs? Let me know, and I will talk to you all later. Indie Pride, signing out. Peace.